Welcome to What Can I Expect? A COVID-19 vaccine Zoom presentation for teens and adults with IDD about what to expect before, during, and after the COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay, so welcome everybody to the Arc of Grays Harbor's What Can I Expect presentation. We're going to be talking about what to expect before, during, and after the COVID-19 vaccine. We have Jerry Rajic with us. He's the Communicable Disease Investigator and Vaccine Branch Associate with Grays Harbor County Public Health. Welcome, Jerry. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this. For a little background, I'm fairly new into the community public health position. I've been working about 7-8 months in public health, but my background, I have my bachelor's of science in community health, and I worked clinically in an emergency department for about 6 years as a medical and chief medical scribe. So I'm fairly familiar with this. I have a pretty good science background. And then I was hired on at Grays Harbor County as a disease investigator, primarily focusing on COVID-19.
Great, thank you so much.
So just some general things about the three vaccines that are currently authorized for emergency use in the United States are 2 mRNA vaccines, which is messenger RNA or ribonucleic acid, and 1 viral vector vaccine being Johnson & Johnson. So I guess the main difference is one primarily, it's just how your immune system kind of responds to it. So both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are mRNA vaccines. They require 2 shots, 21 days apart for Pfizer and 28 days apart for Moderna. And they're both highly effective at reducing severe disease from COVID-19. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a viral vector vaccine, which is, again, kind of your more typical style vaccine. It uses a very weakened, non-replicating adenovirus that carries a piece of genetic material inside of it. Kind of, I know I'll just put air quotes, infects your cells to express a part that looks like COVID-19, and then you build your immune response the same way as you would for the mRNA vaccines. The effectiveness of all 3 vaccines is very high. And I know that we have the numbers here, 95, 94, and 72, respectively, for the vaccines. And I just want to point out that even though Johnson & Johnson says it's 72%, the clinical trial was also done quite a bit later than the early mRNA vaccines. So it could have possibly contributed to the lower number because there were additional variants at that time. But as the CDC has said, all 3 are very effective at reducing severe disease and hospitalizations. Yeah, so Johnson & Johnson was halted in the United States after there were, I believe, 6 cases of a very rare clotting disorder found, primarily in women, I believe, between the ages of, I want to say, 25 and 45. So childbearing age stopped it initially is because they wanted to make sure that there was no danger, which they have essentially ruled that the danger is very low at this point. But again, I believe it was 6 cases out of 6 million doses given. So a very small number, hard to say if this was the exact cause, which I believe is why they resumed use again. Okay. And again, it was just a super rare clotting disorder. It's interesting.
It's like 1 in a million, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the mRNA? And, I think people, because it's new, might feel a little bit hesitant about it, but it's really been studied for quite a while, right?
Definitely. So mRNA vaccines have kind of been in the back of everyone's brain for decades. Because if you can kind of map out the genetic material that you need to express a specific thing about a specific, antigen, or virus or whatever it may be, your body can make its own immune response, which is incredible. The problem with that is mRNA is very delicate. So it's not something like you can take just pure RNA, jam it into your shoulder and expect things to happen. So one of the real difficulties was trying to find kind of the vessel for it to travel into your cells safely and effectively. So basically with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, they've both kind of come up with their own formula of really just a really tiny piece of fat that encases the mRNA. And once you inject it into the shoulder, that fat can easily pass into your cells. And then your cells use its own machinery, translate the mRNA, says, oh, you want us to build this. You build a little, what they call the, again, air quotes, spike protein, which your cell then expresses on the outside of itself. And then your immune system goes, well, that's not right. And you create antibodies. And essentially that's how you build your immune response. So you create the antibodies, and then the next time, if it comes in contact with it, you're ramped up and ready to go.
Awesome. And that, that's part of why it takes the 2 doses, right? Because,
Yes.
I want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, and I guess another thing to mention is, typically after the first dose of an mRNA vaccine, most people have very mild symptoms, if anything, typically just a sore arm. Of course, you can get a fever and headache and, chills and other things associated with any vaccine, but it's more likely after the second one. And the reasoning is, or what I believe is thought to be the reasoning, is because you already have the antibodies created after the first shot. So once you get the second dose, you ramp up immediately, and that's typically why you have a stronger, kind of global immune response. You might get fever and chills and headache and things for about a day. Not everyone experiences those symptoms, but it usually lasts about 12 hours to 24 hours.
How would COVID vaccines work in your body? Well, I have 60 seconds to tell you 3 things you should know. Ready? Number 1, getting the immune system in shape. A vaccine is basically a training session for the immune system. Vaccines teach the immune system to look for the key features of a virus. So, when a virus does show up, it's ready to fight it off. Number 2, vaccine, meet virus. The vaccine gives your body a plan to recognize the virus. Then your immune system starts preparing by making antibodies, or fighter cells, that stay in your blood as protection in case the virus tries to invade. What this means is you get immunity against the disease without having to get sick first. Number 3, community immunity. When enough people's bodies know how to fight off a virus, it has nowhere to go. That slows the spread. When people get a vaccine, we're able to stop the spread quicker and get a little closer to ending this pandemic. That's basically how vaccines work. And that is 60 seconds.
Yeah, so herd immunity, I mean, by virtue is just enough people have the vaccine or have immunity to the virus that it essentially kind of dies out. It can't, there's not enough vessels for it to continue and carry on. That number is thought to be, I believe, around 70% of the population having immunity. And what's so important about this is not everyone can get the vaccine. And the effectiveness is still being evaluated for immunocompromised people who get the vaccine. Because again, I mean, we're relying on our own immune systems to build this, immunity. So having that herd immunity number is really important, just because it slows the spread or, kind of stops it in its tracks because it can't keep going.
So if everybody who can get the vaccine gets it, will protect the people who can't get it, who are more vulnerable.
Most definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
First came the virus that had never been seen before, and that spread faster than we could ever imagine. Now we hear there's a safe and effective way to stop it. Vaccines that will protect millions from COVID-19. But can we really know they're safe after less than a year of testing? COVID-19 vaccines may be new, but vaccines are not. We've been using vaccines to protect against infectious diseases for over a century. 2 COVID vaccines are the first authorized vaccines ever to use a new technology, but even that technology, called messenger RNA, has been tested and studied by vaccine researchers for decades. We've learned how to make vaccines better and safer, and we've applied all that knowledge to COVID-19 vaccines. We also had a head start on COVID vaccines thanks to studies the National Institutes of Health had done. Scientists there actually created a vaccine that could be custom-made to fight different strains of coronavirus, like the virus that causes COVID. Using these studies, they were able to make a COVID-19 test vaccine just over a month after the disease was first reported. All vaccines have to be thoroughly tested before they can be marketed. During clinical trials, scientists measure and compare data on volunteers who receive a vaccine to those who receive a placebo, like an injection of saline. Most early clinical trials involve fewer than 3,000 volunteers, so it can take a year or more to get the data needed to measure how well vaccines work. Early clinical trials for COVID vaccines enrolled at least 30,000 volunteers each, so data on safety and performance were collected and analyzed in under 4 months. Vaccines are usually developed one step at a time, and companies wait until they have final approval to start manufacturing them. But addressing this pandemic couldn't wait. So government and industry invested millions of dollars to produce vaccines at the same time their test data was under review. This meant health departments and clinics started getting vaccine shipments a few days after the Food and Drug Administration's rigorous standards for safety were met, and the vaccines were authorized for public use. Thanks to extraordinary advances, science, industry, and dozens of government agencies have been able to work together to produce and deliver safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines in record time. Decades of experience and innovation led to this achievement, one that can keep you, your family, and your community safe from a serious and dangerous disease. Learn more, cdc.gov/coronavirus.
Okay, so talking about safety, and I know that in the clinical trials, they tried to have a wide variety of people who participated to make sure that there was data on all kinds of people with different conditions, people of different ethnicities and races and ages and all of that kind of stuff. Can you talk at all about the specifically for people with a disability, the studies that were done for that, for the safety of people with a disability?
I would have to actually look at the data. I know that this is safe for people with a multitude of disabilities. There, again, for like the efficacy for immunocompromised is still being evaluated, and for certain kind of like genetic diseases and inherited diseases is still being evaluated. I think generally they are safe, but again, I'm not a medical provider. So in any unique situation, where someone has their own disability or whatever, I would always say, speak to your physician because they're going to know you best, and they can help you make that decision. From what I understand, they're safe and they've been evaluated for, but I mean, everyone's situation's unique. So I would always recommend just talking to their physician. And again, I can't just speak generally because I don't know, and I don't want to give false information.
Sure.
So I would say talk to your doc for in any specific or unique situation. As far as that video, I think that's awesome. They went over a lot, and because a lot of people were very concerned, like, oh my gosh, this was insanely fast to get a vaccine. They usually take years to be created. But again, the fact that we already had the template for a coronavirus that's been worked on for years, the fact that we had, 10 times the amount of people enrolled in clinical trials to get this pushed out quickly is just incredible. And I think it's a good time to bring up that so far, as of, I believe my numbers were current yesterday, we've done over 2 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines worldwide, which is a very substantial number. So I suspect that within the next, probably 3 to 6 months, we'll have an incredible amount of data coming out showing, current safety and efficacy. With the variants that are emerging, the UK variant, the African variant, Brazil variant, all these variants that come out with the coronavirus, the mRNA vaccines are still doing really well at protecting. And I think J&J or Johnson & Johnson is probably still being evaluated. And so I can't really speak to that, but I know that the mRNA vaccines are doing well against the variants.
That's really good. Okay, so what are the benefits of getting the COVID-19 vaccine?
Yeah, I think this slide puts it very well. So again, all 3 vaccines are highly effective at preventing serious disease. So, vaccines are not 100% perfect. You will never have 100% immunity. But if you were to get it after being fully vaccinated, the chances, at least with both mRNA vaccines, you have 100% reduced chance of death, at least in the clinical trials, and 95%, reduced chance of getting severely ill. So it'd be probably less severe than even your common cold from what we've seen.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible. I can speak anecdotally that, I still have friends that are nurses and doctors up in the last hospital that I worked in. COVID is still around. It's still very severe. There are, younger people in their 20s and 30s who are being hospitalized, and they're not vaccinated. So again, if you get the vaccine, even if you were to get COVID-19 after being vaccinated and you have that immunity, chances are the symptoms are going to be mild. And from what the studies are showing now, the risk of transmitting it are significantly reduced because your viral load isn't high enough to really, easily transmit it to someone unless it was probably very close contact. So that's also very good. So again, that's, protecting others. Preparing for the unknown, again, it's all kind of the same thing. Everyone, thinks, well, it's not going to happen to me. But, there's plenty of people out there. I think in the US I know we've had over 500,000 deaths, but I think we're probably closer to 600,000 or more at this point. So again, it can happen to you. I don't want to be a fear monger, but it's, to me, the risk versus reward was a simple answer for myself. Again, boosting your immune system is good. You're using your own machinery in your body to create this immunity, which is an excellent thing. And then, of course, stopping the spread, as we talked about earlier with herd immunity. That's how we're ultimately gonna stop this virus from continuing to ravage things. And I guess, the latest benefits of getting a COVID-19 vaccine, at least in Washington state, is as of yesterday being enrolled into a lottery to win money, which is fabulous. I believe there's a few million in prizes with, I think, if you want to air quote, the jackpot of being like $1 million or something like that, which is pretty incredible. But also the fact that I think you can feel a lot more free of, being a lot safer when you're not wearing a mask, being able to go back to the baseball game and sit in the section. And I don't know, it feels nice to be able to gather with other vaccinated people and not feel worried.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to talk about preparing. So kind of before you get the vaccine, some practical things that you can do to be ready.
So I work for Grace Harbor County Health Department, and that top link there, scheduling your online appointments, healthygh.org. That's our website, and you can sign up directly for a vaccine through our clinics. We host clinics that I run every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mondays and Fridays are 12:30 to, I want to say, 3:30 or 4. And the Wednesday clinic is kind of an after hours where we start at 3:30 and go until 7. So you can schedule it there. The vaccine locator through the Washington State Department of Health, that second link there, shows you where vaccines are available in your area. So if you don't want to go through the health department, if you'd rather go through, say, your pharmacy, your physician's office, there are a lot of places you can get them now. Walmart, Rite Aid, Health Mart. If you want to go to CMAR, most likely your primary care provider has them, and almost all of the pharmacies I think around here have them. So good shot there. And then vaccines.gov is just the more general link that I think will probably end up getting you to Vaccine Locator. But those are all online ways to get there. It's a pretty simple process to sign up. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And of course, by phone, if you call the county health department, we'll set you up with an appointment at our clinic. Or again, you can always call your healthcare provider, or looks like the ARC of Grace Harbor is also helping folks get set up, which is awesome.
Yeah, and people can call us at 360-537-7000. And we're able to, go to the Healthy GH or the Vaccine Locator and help you find an appointment. We can also help arrange for transportation through paratransit to get you to and from your appointment. So if you need help, feel free to give us a call.
I will also mention that at the health department, we prefer if you make an appointment, but if you walk in during our open times, we will not turn you away.
Okay.
So Mondays are Moderna days. Wednesdays and Fridays are both Pfizer. We were offering multiple presentations during a single day, but it's a lot more difficult to manage.
I'm sure.
And then if we do get J&J, we would probably advertise that on our website, healthygh.org. So if you're looking for that, you can always call the health departments or see if it's available on our website. Correct. So if you're between the ages of 12 and 17, you will need to have a parental consent signed.
Okay.
When you come in. You can find that form online, or you can call the health department and we would even mail it out to you if that's something that you need. And yes, you are correct with the ages there. So Johnson & Johnson and Moderna are both 18 plus, and currently Pfizer's the only one authorized for 12 and up. However, I know that Moderna is doing studies right now, and if I were taking a wild guess, I would say they might be authorized for 12 and up come July. But that's speculation. Don't take it. Pretty much all of the pharmacies locally, I believe, have vaccines. The health department, of course, you can come to our health department as a walk-in, or you can make an appointment and come in. And of course, your doctor's office. These are all places where you can get the vaccine. And again, pharmacies don't have to be strictly a pharmacy. The Safeway pharmacies carry it. Walmart pharmacy carries it. So places that you may otherwise be going for something else likely has vaccine as well. So just keep that in mind.
That's fantastic. Everybody's got to go to the grocery store, right?
That's right. Right. So the top three, I mean, you'd probably be able to speak to them better than I can. I know that just anecdotally for my uncle, we've used both paratransit and Dial-A-Ride because he's wheelchair bound in the past, and they're fantastic to help people get where they need to go. But what I can speak to are our homebound services from the health department. So if you are homebound, there is a link in this slide deck here that I'm hoping Christy will give out.
Yeah. It will all be below the video. So just check right below.
Awesome. So you can either click that link and fill out the survey to see if you would qualify for us to come out to your home as the health department with one of our nurses and one of our staff to come and vaccinate you in your home so you don't have to leave. If you don't have access to the internet to sign up for that or fill out the survey, you can also call the health department and we can get you set up with that.
Perfect. That's such a great service. And you know, as a side note, I hear that you guys are doing kind of some rural kind of pop-up clinics. Is that true also?
Yeah, so we've done quite a few. I've largely been going to schools and doing them. So I've been out to North Beach High. Well, I think it's just North Beach schools, Tahola School District, as well as Lake Quinault schools. My colleagues have gone out to Oakville, and I believe we've done some clinics for like people that are working with fisheries and food processing and things like that out at Westport. So yeah, we're trying to get out there. We're trying to help people. We also did a clinic out at Hump Tulips. You know, trying to just pop up where we can to try to help people so they don't have to drive so far.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Our county is pretty big, so
Mhm.
I'm sure that's really helpful for people.
So like I was kind of saying with both of the mRNA vaccines, typically after your first shot, you're probably going to have a sore arm. That's fairly common. And like I said, you can also get fever, chills, headache. There's quite a few symptoms that you can get. They typically, like I said, last 12 hours to a day.
Yeah.
But it's fairly rare after the first dose. It's the second dose where you have typically, you know, a little bit more severe symptoms, again, only lasting about 12 hours to a day. And
Yeah.
everyone's different. You know, some people get hit pretty hard, they're pretty tired, they might have a pretty good headache. Some people don't have much of any symptoms at all, but it is good to prepare if you are employed and maybe if it's a weekend, if you don't work on the weekends, it might be good to come to like a Friday clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a couple days to kind of recuperate. Or if you work during the week or the weekend, coming in the week and getting it done, just so you have a little bit of time to rest up. I know a lot of employers are actually offering paid time off after you get a vaccine. So I would definitely check with your employer just to see.
Yeah.
Because obviously, a lot of people are trying to get people vaccinated. So I would always just ask. Doesn't hurt to ask.
No.
Yeah, and I think these are all good little
Kind of
tips
common
here.
sense stuff. Yeah, common
Yeah.
sense stuff. Like, especially for someone who has a disability and lives on their own, making sure that you have that friend or caregiver to check in on you. If you do supported employment, talk with Morningside or CAP, just let them know ahead of time so that your job coach can be aware. And having some easy food and drinks. I know, like, I had made a big pot of soup, and so I had some leftovers for the next couple of days. That worked out really well. Yeah, and so just kind of plan, but like Jerry said, a lot of people don't have side effects, but good to have that plan in place just in case. So yeah.
And I'll also just mention real quick
Sure.
if we come out for a homebound visit, and if you don't have a lot of folks that are coming out to check on you or anything like that, just if you let us know, we will have a nurse call you the next day just to check on you.
Oh,
So we can totally do that. It's nothing for us to do that. Just make sure that you let us know and we can do that for you.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about during your appointment. So you've gone through the steps of making your appointment and getting your transportation and you've got your pot of soup or whatever and your people that are going to check on you. And so let's talk about what's going to happen once you actually get to your appointment.
Okay. Well, I'll speak to the health department experience because I don't work at a physician's office or a pharmacy.
Right.
But for us, if you've already signed up and basically you would walk into the health department, we have one form for you to sign up. are signed through, and it's just a few demographic questions, usually just name, date of birth, and a good phone number and mailing address. And then a short questionnaire that the CDC has us do for, like, are you feeling sick today? Have you ever had any severe allergic reactions to, it lists out several things. And it asks just a few other questions from your medical history, nothing too crazy. And then you just go through the process. After you have the paperwork, sit down, you get the shot, takes less than a minute. And then you hang out with us for 15 to 30 minutes, depending on your needs. And that's it. Usually, I mean, you're in and out in under 20-25 minutes for the whole process. It's pretty straightforward.
Perfect. So you definitely need to still have a mask, right, when you go in to get your vaccine.
Yep, we ask that you wear a mask just to protect. I mean, obviously, if you're coming for a vaccine, you're not vaccinated yet, and just to protect the other folks that are there getting a vaccine, we would just have you wear your mask. Again, the whole process is usually under 20 minutes. It's not long at all.
Perfect. And how about clothes? So would you recommend people wear maybe a short sleeve shirt?
Yep, short sleeve would be best, or something that you can easily access. We just need access to one of your shoulders.
Okay. Perfect. And the shot is in your upper arm.
Correct. It's in your deltoid muscle. So, I probably can't show it on camera, but basically between your shoulder and your bicep, in that area. So upper arm.
Perfect. Okay. So if you're scared, some people don't like needles. I can totally, especially when I was younger, that was me. So suggestions would be you can hold someone's hand, and nurses are awesome. They pretty much will always hold your hand and be there for you, or bring somebody with you that's comforting for you. You can listen to some music, you can sing, watch a video, something to kind of distract yourself. And they will let you pick usually which arm you'd like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you feel like you're right-handed, you don't want your right arm to be sore, you can go with your left arm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, distraction's always good if you don't like needles. I will say, what we're typically using are a very fine gauge needle.
Yeah.
Most people don't even really feel it.
I didn't feel it at all.
Very quick. The whole process is probably under 1.5 seconds from, it's in, shoot it, and pull it. And it's such a fine gauge needle that you really, really don't feel it much. Some tips, you do get to choose whichever arm you'd like it in. The more relaxed your arm is, the less painful it'll be, because it just goes in really, really easily. Of course, any distraction that you want to bring is totally fine. If you want to bring someone for moral support, you can totally do that as well. Yeah.
So it looks like they just kind of wipe your arm off, and that just cleans off any germs that you might have on your skin. And that's just, it's kind of cold. It's just a little wet wipe. The nurse will give you the shot, and like we talked about, it really barely a pinch. It's pretty painless, and then you get a Band-Aid. So pretty quick.
Yeah, and often people don't even need Band-Aids because it's, again, such a fine gauge needle. Most people don't bleed.
Don't even need a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we talked about that you have to wait a little bit right after your shot.
Yep. So on site, I mean, obviously we have the nurse that's giving the vaccine, but we also have an emergency kit in case anything were to go wrong, like such as an anaphylaxis reaction. We have protocols in place. And the reason why you're waiting with us for a minimum of 15 minutes is just to make sure that you're feeling okay. And we would not release you if you weren't feeling well. And of course, we can always dial 911 if necessary. This has not happened yet.
Yeah.
It's any severe reaction is incredibly rare. And I'll say that, I was working out at our mass vaccination clinic for months. We did over 20,000 doses out there, and I don't think we had any anaphylaxis reactions. I mean, it's really incredibly rare.
Yeah.
But just knowing that we have all of the medications on site to make sure that this can be done safely, we do.
Yes.
So, yep, after your shot, we have you in our room where we are monitoring you. Again, it's a 15-minute wait unless you've had a severe allergic reaction to some of the ingredients that may be in the vaccine,
Yeah,
or
and
unless you
you
want
would
to stay
know
30
that.
minutes. We do, yes. It's part of the questionnaire,
Yeah, yeah,
and we can always clarify. Um, but yeah, you just come hang out with us. I would recommend bringing a phone or a book,
yeah.
so you can hang out with us for 15 minutes. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. And again, the next day, the most common symptom in any of the vaccines is a sore arm.
Yeah, yeah. And you can kind of put like a wet washcloth on there, right? To kind of, or, a little cold pack, kind of moving your arm around can help a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we recommend doing any of your normal activities. If you still lift weights, if you play basketball, do whatever you want to do. We don't recommend like rubbing it really hard because again,
Yeah,
especially for the mRNA, it's a pretty delicate thing. So we don't recommend like, punching your arm or rubbing it vigorously, but
right.
certainly using it is good and often actually helps with the soreness.
Okay, so you get a handy dandy vaccination card, your appointment.
Yes, you get your vaccination card. It has your last name, first name, and date of birth on it. And then below that, it will have which vaccine you got and which lot number of that vaccine you got, followed by the date that you received that dose and where you received it at. Um, this card is kind of, I guess, going to be your ticket for travel, and anything else. We always tell people it's a good idea to take a picture of it with your phone,
Mhm.
and then lock it up somewhere safe. But if you do lose it, we can always create a new one for you at the health department. So you could call us and say, "Hey, I lost my card." We can fill it out with you, or for you rather, and then send it out to you if you can't pick it up.
And that'll kind of, you want to bring that with you if you're getting a second shot, right?
Absolutely. Yep. You definitely want to bring it with your second shot. Again, if you forget, we can always create you a new card, but it's
Okay.
best if you take your original. So again, these are general with any vaccination, but you may develop a fever or chills. You may have a headache, sore arm. I get again is very common. More rare ones, you may have like joint aches for a day, or nausea. Some people get nauseated. Again, fairly rare, but it does happen. There are medication that you can take. What's recommended by CDC is not taking medication that would reduce fever preventively. So don't take like Tylenol, ibuprofen, aspirin, anything like that before your vaccine. But if you get a sore arm later or a headache or fever, absolutely they say you can take it. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Don't take it beforehand unless you regularly take it, like for daily aches and pains. If you take ibuprofen daily or something, that's totally fine and normal. But otherwise, they don't recommend taking it prior. Yep, this is mentioning the additional shots. So for both the mRNA vaccines, you will need to get a second dose. And then I guess I don't know if it's mentioned here, but after your second dose, you have about 2 weeks until your immune system is robust, and you should then be pretty well, able to do anything that you want.
So that's when you have the full immunity that you can get from that vaccine is after 2 weeks after your second shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. So, during that time where you're still waiting, you still need to wear your mask and wash your hands and socially distance 6 feet apart.
Yep, absolutely. And I would, I'll always say if when in doubt, just check the current guidance. You can always check. I believe we have it on our website, healthygh.org, but also the Washington State Department of Health's website, or also cdc.gov. We'll kind of give you the latest guidance. So things are changing all the time about what you can and can't do once you've been vaccinated, but it's pretty well opened up now. If you're fully vaccinated and you're fully, you have your 2 weeks of immunity, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely.